Let's get right into it. Number 10. Radioactive water. Back in the 1920s, people weren't just drinking water. They were drinking certified radioactive water. The most popular brand was called Radithor, and it was basically spicy water with a deadly kick. This wasn't some back alley snake oil. This stuff was sold in fancy bottles with official-looking labels. The maker, William Bailey, called it liquid sunshine in a bottle. Doctors were prescribing this stuff, claiming it could cure everything from arthritis to impotence. One guy, Eben Byers, loved it so much he drank 3 bottles every day for years. He even gave it to his racehorses. Byers became Radithor's poster boy. He was rich, successful, and swore by his daily dose of radiation. Then his teeth started falling out. His jaw literally crumbled away. His body had more holes than Swiss cheese. When he died, they had to bury him in a lead-lined coffin because his body was so radioactive it could have contaminated the soil. The Wall Street Journal ran the headline, "The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off." Some people still kept drinking it even after Byers died. The government had to step in and shut down the whole radioactive beverage industry. Bailey, the guy who invented Radithor, lived to a ripe old age. He never actually drank his own product. Number 9. X-ray shoe fittings. In 1940s shoe stores, salesmen would invite customers to their scientific shoe fitting machine. You'd stick your feet into a wooden box and suddenly see right through your shoes. Your skeleton would be right there, wiggling its toes in real time. These machines were using actual X-rays to show customers their bones. Kids were so fascinated they'd spend hours playing with these machines, watching their bones move around. Salespeople would demonstrate by sticking their hands in dozens of times daily. Each viewing blasted you with a massive dose of radiation, potentially up to 2,000 times more than a modern chest X-ray. The salespeople suffered the worst consequences. Many developed radiation burns on their hands. Some lost fingers. Others developed aggressive cancers years later. Yet the companies kept marketing these machines as perfectly safe, even for pregnant women. It took until the 1950s for people to realize shooting radiation at children's feet was dangerous. By then, these machines had been zapping people for over 30 years. Number 8. Mercury teething powder. In the 1940s, parents would rub mercury powder directly onto their baby's gums. It was marketed as calomel and sold as a common teething remedy. Yes, that mercury, the toxic substance we now keep locked in hazmat containers. Some parents even sprinkled it on their baby's food. Soon, doctors noticed babies coming in with bizarre symptoms. Their hands and feet would turn bright pink, giving the condition its name, pink disease. Their skin would peel off in sheets. They couldn't sleep. They'd sweat constantly. And they'd scream in pain if anyone touched them. Only 1 in 500 babies got sick, which made the problem harder to spot. Parents kept using the powder since it seemed fine for most children. But for those affected, the outcome was devastating. 1 in 10 babies with pink disease died. Scientists discovered that some babies had a specific sensitivity that made the mercury extra deadly, but it took until the 1950s for doctors to make the connection and ban the practice. Number 7. Belladonna Eye Drops. Back in the day, having big dilated pupils was considered super attractive. It's like the ancient version of the Instagram filter. Everyone wanted that wide-eyed, dreamy look. So people squeezed juice from the deadly nightshade plant into their eyes. The name Belladonna literally means beautiful lady in Italian, but this plant is also called deadly nightshade for a very good reason. The drops would make their pupils get huge, giving them that "I'm totally into you" look. Your eye doctor still uses a safer synthetic version of belladonna during checkups, but back then, people were just putting raw poison straight into their eyeballs. The side effects were brutal. First, you'd get blurry vision. Then came hallucinations, a racing heartbeat, and if you were really unlucky, death. This wasn't some obscure practice. This was mainstream beauty advice for centuries. It'd be like if Vogue magazine today recommended drinking small amounts of antifreeze for glowing skin. The practice finally died out when people realized putting deadly poison in their eyes wasn't the best beauty hack. Number 6. Bloodletting. Bloodletting was basically the duct tape of ancient medicine for 3,000 years. Got a fever? Let's drain some blood. Stomach ache? More blood needs to come out. Stubbed your toe? Time to bleed. The whole thing was based on this idea of 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Doctors thought these needed to be balanced, like a medieval smoothie recipe. These doctors weren't messing around with little cuts. They had special tools that looked like something from a medieval torture chamber. There were lancets, fleams, and even spring-loaded devices that could stab you multiple times at once. But the real MVPs of bloodletting were leeches. These little vampires were so popular, there were professional leech collectors who would wade into swamps using their bare legs as bait. The leeches got so popular that by the 1830s, France was importing 40 million leeches a year. There was a leech shortage. People were fighting over leeches like they were PS5s on Black Friday. George Washington caught a throat infection in 1799. His doctors decided to drain half his blood volume in 16 hours. That's like trying to cure a paper cut by chopping off your arm. Bloodletting finally died out in the late 1800s, when people realized that draining someone's blood wasn't the best way to make them healthier. Number 5. Tanning with baby oil. In the 1960s, people would head to the beach with a bottle of baby oil mixed with iodine. No sunscreen, just pure oil to achieve that perfect golden tan. Baby oil is basically mineral oil, which sits on top of your skin like a magnifying glass. It turns your body into a human solar panel, collecting massive amounts of skin damage. Some people would mix iodine into their baby oil, thinking the brown color would help them tan faster. It didn't. It just made them smell like a hospital and look like they'd been dipped in soy sauce. That healthy glow people were chasing is actually your skin screaming for help. When UV rays hit your skin, your body panics and produces melanin as a defense mechanism. That tan is your skin's version of a panic attack. The baby oil creates what scientists call the magnifying glass effect. Just like using a magnifying glass to fry ants, people were essentially doing this to their own skin. The results were devastating. Many ended up with skin looking like a leather handbag by age 40. Today, dermatologists regularly see patients in their 60s and 70s with skin cancer, directly linked to their baby oil tanning days. Those vintage photos of people glistening in the sun like glazed donuts weren't just tanning, they were marinating themselves in preparation for skin cancer. Number 4. Sleeping babies face down. In 1970, doctors gave parents what seemed like simple advice: put your baby to sleep on their stomach. This wasn't just a suggestion, it was standard medical practice for decades. Doctors believed babies would choke if they slept on their backs. They even created medical diagrams showing how stomach sleeping would help babies breathe better. Parents followed this advice religiously. Grandmas would rush to flip babies over if they found them sleeping on their backs. Then scientists noticed something disturbing in the data. Countries where babies slept on their stomachs had significantly more cases of sudden infant death syndrome. Thousands of babies were dying mysteriously in their sleep. The truth was, stomach sleeping can trap carbon dioxide around a baby's face. The position also makes it harder for babies to wake up if something's wrong. It's essentially like being stuck face down in a mattress without the strength to lift your head. When countries started telling parents to put babies on their backs, SIDS rates dropped by more than 50%. Thousands of lives were saved just by flipping babies over. Yet some people still put babies to sleep on their stomachs because that's how we did it, and we turned out fine. But the ones who didn't survive aren't here to tell their story. Number 3. Firefighting grenades. In Victorian times, your fire extinguisher wasn't a red cylinder. It was a decorative glass ball that looked like a Christmas ornament. These were called fire grenades, and they were everywhere in the late 1800s. The first versions were filled with salt water, but then someone had the brilliant idea to fill them with carbon tetrachloride. This chemical was amazing at putting out fires. It would turn into a heavy gas when heated, and smother the flames by pushing away all the oxygen. But when this stuff got hot, it turned into phosgene gas, the same phosgene gas used as a chemical weapon in World War I. These fire grenades were basically DIY chemical weapons. People would mount them on their walls in special racks, like deadly home decor. Some buildings even had automatic versions that would drop from the ceiling when they detected heat. So if your house caught fire, you'd get a surprise shower of glass balls filled with toxic chemicals. The gas was heavier than air, so it would sink to the ground. This meant if you were crawling to escape the fire, you were crawling right into a cloud of poison gas. These grenades were still being used into the 1950s, and some still exist today as antique collectibles. People display them in their homes, not realizing they're basically holding tiny poison gas bombs from the Great War. Number 2. Formaldehyde milk. In the late 1800s, people were drinking milk mixed with formaldehyde, the same chemical used to preserve dead bodies. With no refrigeration available, dairy farmers added formaldehyde to keep milk from spoiling. They marketed it as embalmed milk and sold it everywhere. Babies and young children were the main victims. In just one summer in New York, over 400 babies died from drinking this toxic mixture. But the dairy farmers didn't stop there. They added chalk and plaster dust to make thin milk look creamier. Some even mixed in pureed calf brains for texture. Dr. Harvey Wiley finally exposed this deadly practice. He formed a poison squad of volunteers who consumed potentially lethal foods to prove their danger. Their sacrifice led to the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, ending the era of formaldehyde-preserved milk. Number 1. Leaded gasoline. In the 1920s, a company created a substance called tetraethyl lead to stop cars from making knocking sounds. They branded it as ethyl, and it worked perfectly. There was just one problem. It was basically liquid death. The people making it knew exactly how dangerous it was. At the factory, workers started going insane. They called it the House of Butterflies because workers would hallucinate swarms of insects. Some workers would dance uncontrollably during their shifts. Others would get into fistfights with invisible enemies. 5 workers died in a single day at one plant, but they didn't stop production. Their solution was just giving workers shorter shifts and telling them to wash their hands more. The inventor, Thomas Midgley Jr., tried proving it was safe by washing his hands in it during a press conference. He later needed a year-long leave to recover from lead poisoning. Still, they kept putting this stuff in gas for the next 50 years. By the time it was banned in the 1970s, we'd given the entire planet lead poisoning. Scientists estimate that leaded gas exposure lowered the IQ of a huge portion of the population by an average of 6 points. The same inventor also created CFCs, the chemicals that destroyed the ozone layer. Historians argue that Thomas Midgley Jr. has negatively impacted the environment more than any other single organism in Earth's history. He successfully poisoned the entire world, twice. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.